BlackBusters.
Welcome back, family. What's cracking with it? Welcome back to another episode of BlackBusters, the best movie review podcast in the world.
In the world, Craig.
In the world, Craig. In the world, Craig.
In the world, Craig.
Yes, sir. I am your host, Big Ja, along with my co-host.
I could only be OG Tony Johnson.
OG Tony Johnson.
OG Tony Johnson.
And if you guys are movie buffs like we are, especially black films, you should already know what that is just by his name. OG Tony Johnson.
OG Tony Johnson.
Are you any kin to OG Bobby Johnson?
No relation.
No relation.
No relation.
Just from the set, maybe.
Yeah.
Hey, we are doing today South Central. And
Central.
Yeah. I talked about it the other week when we were doing Clockers.
Yeah.
Right? And I brought it up and I said we should do South Central next or soon. And I think we decided we need to get that going.
Do you think South Central is universally popular, or do we fuck with it because we from LA?
I think we fuck with it because it's from LA. But if you are a real human being and you watch the movie, it has nothing really to do with LA. It just happens to take place in LA.
It just happens to be in LA. Of
course, the culture with the Hoover Deuce and the gangbanging and the Crips and Blood situation, that's specifically West Coast LA initially, especially back then. But this movie isn't about gangbanging. You know what I'm saying? I mean, obviously it is. That's the plot. You know, that's the character development. But this movie is bigger than that.
So much bigger.
Yeah.
So much bigger.
Yeah. Let's get into it, man. South Central, it was made and it came out in 1992.
Yes.
I was literally the same age as Jimmy.
Damn.
Yeah. Yep. I was 11 actually. So He was 10, 11. I was 11 years old, bro. And this movie is written by Stephen Milburn Anderson and Donald Bakir, and directed by Stephen Milburn Anderson, and starring Glenn Plummer, Byron Menz, Lexi Bigman. And
somehow Oliver Stone has something to do with this movie. He's one of the producers.
Is that right?
Oliver Stone, I see him in the credits as one of the producers of this movie.
Right. I saw that.
Interesting.
Too. Yeah. But here's the thing. I think this movie, I love this movie. For one, I'm from LA. We're from LA. So I get why I love the Menace Societies, the Woods, the Don't Be a Menace, even the parodies, Boys in the Hood, South Central, Poetic Justice. I love very LA-based films because I'm from here, and it reminds me. It has a nostalgia feeling to me when I watch these movies over and over again.
For sure.
But even if I wasn't from South Central, and I love a good story, a good urban story that I can relate to. You don't have to be from LA to relate to this film.
Yeah.
If you take out the Hoover Deuce gang banger, and make him just a drug dealer in LA. I mean, drug dealer in Chicago, a drug dealer in Texas, a street dude in New York. You know what I'm saying? This movie can be the same for you as far as
that's a great point. This movie is called South Central, but it could be called Black America. Right. Because the themes in this movie are universal. Mm-hmm. They aren't specific to South Central. To your point, it could be Baton Rouge, it could be Houston, South Side of Chicago, Decatur. It just happened to be set in South Central. Right. But the arms, the tentacles of where this movie applies, I think could apply everywhere. Right. This movie is different. Upon this last rewatch, I don't know the last time any of y'all watched South Central. This movie is not Boys in the Hood. No. It is not Menace to Society.
No.
It is a different kind of hood movie.
Mm-hmm. Right. And maybe that's why, in my opinion, and maybe it's probably a popular opinion, is that it's not that popular. amongst all the hood films, the Juices, New Jack City, Boys in the Hood, Menace
It's
to
super
Society.
indie. Like
It's
it's
very
super
indie.
indie. I mean, it's got Glenn Truman,
Glenn
Glenn Plummer. I'm sorry. It's got Glenn Plummer as the star. He's not a big star.
He's not.
He's not a huge star. So
No.
this movie has very little star power. I mean, he's literally the biggest star in the movie. So it doesn't have like, I can understand why Hollywood forgot about this movie. I can understood like this movie in some ways has been lampooned over the years, right?
Yeah.
Like the parts of it that were really deep have kind of become kind of jokey, and we could talk about that a little bit later. But it's almost like the movie is so good that like I don't know if people know how to carry it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like
I think also at the time it was made, this movie is made over 30 years ago. Right. Yeah. And I think it's a good tale for Black men. It's a metamorphic, where the main character changes in such a drastic way.
Yeah.
Very, very good. It's a happy ending. I don't think Hollywood was ready for a movie like this.
This is true. This is true.
Right. And especially in 1992, unless you got Denzel playing the guy or Wesley Snipes, maybe. This is a good tale. This was a good realistic movie. I feel it's realistic.
Damn.
I think and they've had more star power if it was Denzel Washington playing OG Bobby Johnson and Wesley Snipes played Ray Ray. You know, the boy from if he's old enough, I think they're around the same age. The boy from Soul Food playing the Jimmy, and the wife being give me somebody at that time, Angela Bassett or something like that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I think this movie is a bigger Hollywood blockbuster, not blockbuster necessarily, but like it's a bigger movie, more popular movie. But it probably wouldn't. I don't want another OG Bobby Johnson. I don't want Glenn Plummer is an excellent actor, not a popular actor, but he's an excellent actor.
He's an excellent actor.
Ray did amazing. I don't want.
Yeah.
I want to keep the cast. I want to change Jimmy though. I'm gonna keep it 100.
Yeah.
Jimmy wasn't good. Jimmy distracted me from the film because he was such a bad actor.
We talked about this. I mean, like in the over 100 movies that we've watched, Black movies that we've watched, the kid actors are the hardest to nail down.
Right.
In terms of and in this particular movie, he is such a important part of the story.
Right.
And he's doing the best that he can. Like he's doing the best that he can. You can tell that he is sticking to the script they were giving him.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like all of his this man did no improvisation.
No way.
At all. Like
no way.
Sure, Ray. You know, like
thank you, Ray.
Super tight. But I think like going back to your earlier point, like this is a movie that's like, if you pitch it in Century City or you pitch it in Hollywood, it's about a father that wants his son.
Yeah.
And that is not sexy, right?
Mm-mm.
Like,
no.
Menace to Society has guns, it has
robbery.
Death, it has robbery,
police chases.
Yeah. Boys in the Hood has Ice Cube, and it has Lawrence Fishburne, and it has Cuba Gooding Jr. This movie doesn't have any of the star power to make you interested, right? You've got to truly be invested in Black stories or the Black community for this movie to even appeal to you. But if it does, and you find yourself watching this, I think you find yourself watching a very unique and distinctly different Black hood movie from all the hood movies. It does not have any of the additional tropes that we see. It stands alone, right? It is different than Juice. It's different than Boys in the Hood. It's different than Menace to Society. It's its own really interesting story about awareness and wisdom and
self-evaluation.
And it's a story about fatherhood. It's a story about manhood. Really interesting movie. And Ja, from a film standpoint, it checks all the boxes.
Yeah.
Does this movie have a huge budget? No. But it was shot well. It was framed well. It was paced well.
It was good. Yeah. Yes.
It was, I mean, this was a quality film, like a quality film. Despite the budget, despite the story, I got no knocks on how this movie was made technically.
No. And even stuff like B-roll, like the transitions were very quick, kind of short, but that's okay. It's a movie. That's really what made it feel kind of indie. But it had heart. It had very good heart. It had a lot of heart to it. And Glenn Plummer's his performance carried the film
so much so.
Yeah. I love the character Ali. Ali was extremely important for the film. And this movie, even though it didn't get it might not be a top film for people to remember over the years, but even like Don't Be a Menace will put it in this parody.
Lampooned it.
Don't Be a Menace, lampooned it. And that shows you that, the culture is paying attention because the culture knows. It's a movie. It's still a pillar in the community of movies to watch. But because it wasn't really about street thugging, it was more so about a man changing his life around and trying to save his son's life at the same time. That's really what it's about.
So walk us through it. Walk us through. Let's go through plot and story.
It opens up. Yeah. The first scene, plot and story is a man starting a gangbang set in South Central Los Angeles with his best friend Ray Ray.
Yeah.
They're trying to push out the competition. There's a older pimp / drug dealer in the neighborhood, and
Kansas City Smack Man.
Yeah, Kansas City Smack Man.
Yeah.
He is basically encroaching on the territory, selling drugs in their community. And Ray Ray is kind of disguising it as like, no, we looking out for our own community. We need you out of here. But really, really, he's trying to take over the drug game, and the gang game as well. They got what do you say? We got a few hundred Hoover Deuces right now. We trying to get to, oh no, he said in the
next 5 years.
Next 5 years, we're gonna have, I forget the number he said, but like we're gonna have thousands. You know what I'm saying? They're trying to stretch across the whole city.
John, did you ever see that documentary Bastards of the Party?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So when I was watching this movie, I immediately thought about Bastards of the Party because I was trying to frame Ray Ray, and it's easy to frame Ray Ray as the movie's villain. Sure. But it's almost like on that Bastards of the Party shit, Ray Ray had like a bigger vision for what the Deuces were going to be. And the Deuces were not going to be your garden variety, off the shelf thugs. Right. They were talking about policing the community, keeping the community safe, being stewards or wardens of the neighborhood, having schools and parks in one's territory. It really felt kind of Bastards of the Party, which is like his original vision was, we are going to be the caretakers of our community. The only thing that Ray Ray, despite that, was he was turned out by the game.
Right.
He was going to fund it with drugs and had no blinks about it at all. He had no hesitancy about whether that was right or wrong. We're going to be Deuces. We're going to take care of the community, and we're going to fund it by selling drugs to the fiends. that's the fundamental flaw in Ray Ray's philosophy. But his initial philosophy wasn't like traditional villain. His heart was in the right place, as the same way Bastards of the Party shows that the original Crips and the original Bloods' heart was in the right place in terms of them trying to inherit the mantle of the Black Panthers for community policing, community leadership, all of the above.
The only thing I agree with you mostly, but I do have a different thought process
for sure
on him not being a villain. I agree with you initially, but he got out of hand.
For sure.
You got 10-year-olds breaking into cars and stealing radios. That's not policing the community.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's not saving the community, you're taking away from it. Innocent people working and using your hard-earned money to buy cars and stereos in it, and you got little 10-year-olds breaking into them and stealing them. That doesn't make sense. Yeah. So he might have thought he was doing good. He might feel like he was bigger than the program, and the program is a community, and we could take from this. And then when a man shoots a kid down, but what if it was a man? What if the guy stealing the car radio was 26 years old and he got shot in the back? Are you gonna go kill him because he's protecting himself? You stole his belongings. But that's the selfishness. That's the backwards thinking. I think that what happens is a lesser man will see the success in what he's doing and get greedy and more greedy and more greedy. And that's kind of what happened. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's what I think happened.
Yeah, I think he was doing also, but this goes against what I'm saying. He might not be the villain because he's just doing to Jimmy what was done to him. He was stealing car radios, or back then when he was 10, there was no car radios that you can just detach like that. But he was stealing cars. He was doing that. He was sticking up people. He was sticking up liquor stores and stuff when he was 10, 11, 12 with Jimmy. That's why with Bobby Johnson, which is why Bobby Johnson, the movie opened up with him coming out of jail. He had been in jail at least a year.
Yeah,
his son, his girl been pregnant. His son is born. His son looks
about 4 or 5 months. Yeah.
So he had been in jail for at least a year. His homies come to pick him up, and they go kick it. They go chill, and they got it. We got to grow this hood. We got to grow this set to make it a larger set. So
to me, true bastards of the party, right? Yeah. Like true bastards of the party. What's interesting is that in all the Black movies that we've seen, we've always seen our drug dealers sometimes. Like Nino Brown doesn't have a lot of redeeming qualities. We see him giving out turkeys in the hood. But the greed point that you talked about, which is what quickly encapsulates Ray Ray, which is, every now and then even going back last week to Clockers, right? Like these guys have ambitions on making their communities better, right? And they see the drug game as a way to make money, and they try to live this duality. But the truth of the matter is that they don't really give a fuck about the addicted.
Right.
And they don't really give a fuck about the workers. Right? Like Ray Ray's love for OG Bobby Johnson was not enough to not put Lil Jimmy
in harm's way.
Right. Lil Jimmy might have come up quicker, but he wasn't going to be excluded from, I don't want you doing anything that's going to get you shot or get you in jail. Overall, he's still a soldier. Like the same way Delroy Lindo looked at Strike is the same way Ray Ray looked at Jim. Same thing.
Yep.
You're as useful as you are in terms of your ability to earn.
Yeah. Yep. Hey, if you want to come up in the business, Strike, you got to go take care of Daryl Adams. Yo, it's about time you get put on the set, Lil Jimmy.
Yep.
I need you to start putting in some work, though. You didn't even cap somebody 187? Nah, not yet. Not yet.
Not yet.
Now we're gonna start real
Such a great
small.
line. Such a great line.
Yeah. It foreshadowed what he had planned for him.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know what I'm saying? So he was like, hey, what I want you to do now is get some money. You start stealing some sounds, all right?
Mm-hmm.
And,
putting in some work.
Putting in some work that way. So, and then that lets me know that lets me know that you're down. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna pay you for it. So he was grooming. He was grooming him. Eventually, Ray Ray was gonna have Lil Jimmy take care of Adara Adams for him.
Yep. Boom. Mm-hmm. Same deal.
So if you think about it,
same deal.
Yeah, same situation. Your boy Ray Ray low key used his best friend and used the best friend with his girlfriend dealing with Kansas City Smack Man. He made Bobby Johnson pull the trigger. He didn't make him, but he persuaded him to. This is what you need.
He certainly manipulated him because no, young Bobby Johnson was full of anger.
Yeah.
Right? Full of anger. Young Ray Ray was smart. He was wise. And he was wise enough to use that anger that he knew Bobby Johnson had in him to his. I mean, listen, Kansas City Smack Man called Ray Ray out right on the stoop. The only reason why you upset at what I'm doing is because you ain't getting a part.
Right.
He knew right off the bat that all of this do shit is bullshit. You want control of the territory that I'm running drugs in.
You can do what I'm doing, if not bigger and better.
Exactly. So he knew exactly who Ray Ray was. OG Bobby Johnson is a soldier. He's Weebay. You know, he's a soldier and he's a tool, and Ray Ray used him accordingly.
Right.
And OG Bobby Johnson was content to do his time as an OG shot caller deuce up until the point where he recognized that Ray Ray was not protecting his son.
Yes.
And that was the change of direction moment for OG Bobby Johnson.
And that's where he was like, oh yeah, this whole reduced stuff ain't it. So he started questioning his set. His game banging.
Because of his set's inability to protect his son.
Right.
It wasn't about anything else. It wasn't about anything else. Like, he went and claimed Loco, as he should. That's a homie from my hood. And even though Loco is a jitterbug and he's shermed out or whatever, that's still my guy.
Right.
Everything was all good. It was all Hoover Deuce until the point where Ray Ray until he learned that his son was not being insulated, that Ray Ray was not protecting his son.
Right. And so on top of that, he's like, out of all the boys, all the sons out there, you choose mine?
Yeah.
You got my son hopping fences and gates and stealing cars in the middle of the
stealing stereos.
At 10?
Yeah.
Yeah, bro. So
I'm done.
Yeah. I'm done with this game banging stuff. And I'm trying to get out. And him having the big brother, aka father figure in Ali, helped him change his ways.
Ali was a strong character, Ja.
Oh yeah, bro. One of my favorite. It came from within. He's a convict doing life in prison, so he's not
life.
He's not a reverend. He's not a pastor. It probably wouldn't got through to him if he was a reverend. I'm just like you. I'm just years in. I'm just, I'm 10 years older than you, bro. But I was you at one point in time, full of anger, full of anger and guilt and pain. You got to let that go. You got to change your attitude. Change your
Ali was a real one. I could tell Ali was a real one, Ja, because he was the only one that they let wear daishiki.
Yeah,
everybody else was in prison regulars
in blues. Yep.
Yeah, but Ali had his daishiki popping, and Ali understood the rules of the penitentiary. Ali claimed Bobby Johnson.
Yeah.
You could tell that by, like, after Bobby Johnson comes out the hole and he goes now to Ali's cell, that look between Ali and the guard was almost kind of like, the look after the end of a transaction.
Yeah.
I want him in here with me.
Right. Yeah.
And it made sense for the prison, the prison politics to get OG Bobby Johnson in with Ali. And Ali slow played it. Like he slow played it. When he stands up for him in front of Buddha and you know, like they don't understand plurals in prison. Gave him 15 box, not boxes.
15 boxes of cigarettes.
15 boxes. Yeah, 15 boxes of cigarettes. Claimed him and essentially said, "You owe me 15 bucks. You pay me back by reading."
Right.
Dope.
2 hours every day.
Yeah.
Man.
Dope.
It goes to show you, I wonder the psyche of a criminal that grows up to be a menace to society, and how often I'm sure there's there's a percentage of young men that go to prison that didn't have fathers, and this is a conversation. I mean, a movie discussing that.
Yeah.
A lot of times your father is your voice of reason. The chance of you committing a crime or being sent to the penitentiary is probably slimmer if you have a father in your life that was giving you and guiding you with proper guidance. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Sometimes you got a father, you got a mom and dad in your life, but your mom and your dad are just like they turn you into a menace to society. So, but this is a father that is talking to his son and watching his son and giving him the best possible advice and living a certain type of lifestyle that allows his son to see him like that and to admire that. Like sometimes you can be a good father trying to raise your son the right way, and then your son still falls victim to the hood or the streets because he admires the drug dealers and the shot callers in the hood more than he does his own dad.
Yeah. That's the thing. It reminds me of like a Bronx Tale, right? With like the same kind of situation where, you know, we've got a father figure. We've got two kind of father figures. We've got a hardworking blue collar kind of father figure, and then we've got Sonny, like, you know, the gang, you know, thug kind of thing,
the mobster,
and that's mobster, and that's what little Ray Ray has in it. That's a bit of a nitpick for me. Like this movie doesn't have a bit of a nitpick because everything about this movie makes sense and is true to its story. And it may have been about the young actor's portrayal, but the draw, the allure of his real father, he's so curious about his real dad in this movie that, like, just simply the fact that you are my dad carries a lot of weight in this movie. Like it moves him in a way that, like, that I understand, even though I don't see the evidence of that on screen. Right? Like, you know, the idea that little Jimmy would have I mean, his father is an OG, so he probably grew up
hearing about his dad,
feeling like his dad was a legend.
Yeah. And he was. And you saw how his friends reacted to him.
Yeah.
Right.
So I guess that's what greases the wheels in terms of, you know, him being receptive, like little J-Rock being receptive to OG Bobby Johnson, is because he knows the name that his dad had, and that name still carries weight. And his dad is fundamentally different than anybody that J-Rock is involved with.
Right.
He's different than Bear. He's different than Ray Ray, and he's talking some different shit. A little bit of Hollywood about like how, like, you know, OG Bobby Johnson can parachute in. This movie is powered by monologue, right? The monologues are good enough for sure, but the monologues do all the heavy work. The monologue that Ali gives OG Bobby Johnson does a lot of work, and then the monologue that OG Bobby Johnson gives J-Rock does a lot of work. I don't always love that in a film where the monologue does so much heavy lifting that like it fundamentally changes like plot and character decisions. And in this movie, they rely upon the monologue to change people's minds. Ali's monologue for OG Bobby Johnson fundamentally changes him in that cell, right? The idea that OG Bobby Johnson can come into that situation at the end of the movie and win by power of monologue. The really good filmmaking, I don't know if that's believable.
Okay, so here's the thing: the inside the cell with Ali. I mean, you shut up and listen.
Yeah, shut up and listen. I'm gonna talk, and you're gonna listen.
So that monologue makes sense. Like if the big homie is, and you owe him this dude, so you're gonna let him here. You owe him 15 boxes and your ass. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, you gonna shut up. Right. And he doesn't know anything about Ali really until Ali starts expressing himself and telling him more about him, about how he got there.
Yeah.
And so at this point, this dude's a 3-time murderer, a 3-time felon. He got 3 bodies. Mm-hmm. He in there for life. 3 life sentences. You know what I'm saying? So he's listening because this dude is spitting some real shit, and he knows that he fucked up. He knows that he's wrong. So when someone's speaking to you and telling you about how they see you, and they know, and you see, oh, this person's right about that, you have no reason, you have no way, you have no other reason other than to be quiet. Now,
and Ali was strong.
Ali was strong. Now here's the thing: he helped OG Bobby Johnson become strong too.
Yeah,
and I honestly think the monologue at the end was necessary because Ray know he's wrong, bro.
Yeah.
Ray, that's why Ray never said, hey, I'm doing this. Your son's mine now. He's more like, it's your son's choice. We didn't have a dad. You can't just make this choice for him. He's his own young man. He make the choice for himself, just like we make the choice for ourselves. Because Ray's world doesn't revolve. Ray's world, there's no man in there. There's no father to help guide you.
So true.
So he's like, no. You're not gonna tell him what to do. No one told us what to do. We're gonna let J-Rock answer for himself at 10 and make a decision.
Yeah.
So at that point, and really, I honestly think, like you said, I do think that Ray's the villain, but he's not really the villain in that world.
That's what I'm saying.
Honestly, he's like, bro, you changed. You did the crime. You sat down for 10 years. You got out. Let's get back to business, bro. Half of this is yours anyways. I owe you.
Yeah.
So I think Ray loved OG Bobby Johnson the best way he could. He's being loyal to the homie. I'm even showing your son how to be like us.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I treated your son like my own son. That's why out of all the little kids in the neighborhood, J-Rock is the one I come to and pull away from the crew.
Yeah.
You special. You my best. You OG Bobby Johnson's son.
And everybody knows that he has access to Ray.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Like if we separate the movie and just go back to growing up in L.A., you understood that some boys had access and privilege, either by who their dad was or who their brother was.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there was a hood nepotism, if you will.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that like just simply because of who that kid is and who his daddy was or who his uncle was or who his brother was, he's got an elevated status. I remember that in elementary school. Mm-hmm. Like I remember that there were certain little boys, and this was before they became tyrants or gangsters or anything else. Yep. Everybody gave them love because of who their family was.
Hey, this little Dulo's little brother.
Oh, and real? That was enough.
What up, little man? What's going on? Hey, we can't wait for your brother to come home. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
But we understood that as classmates. Like I understood as a second grader that guy. Yeah. A, you don't mess with him
because he got brothers and cousins that come see you,
and he carried that legacy with him the same way Lil J-Rock did. J-Rock walks around like my dad is OG Bobby Johnson.
Yeah.
An original Deuce. Even if you don't know him,
right.
He carries that. And I remember that in my real life with like certain kids, it would be like his bro is such and such.
Right.
And
or his daddy,
even if we didn't understand the nuances of that world, we knew that he came from a pedigree.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And so to come find out that your OG daddy is different dude now, it crushed him. He was like, man, you ain't OG Bobby Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
You ain't that. I ain't never dissing the hood. I'm staying a deuce forever. And he left because he thought that's what you was supposed to do.
Yep.
He heard his whole life, all the homies was like, yo, your daddy doing time in the pen for murder. And he hearing from the top dog in the city, Ray Ray. Ray Ray's probably showing so much love and putting so much respect on his dad's name.
Yeah.
He's like, oh yeah. So it happened. So even when which kind of doesn't make sense that Bear, who was the little homie or just one of the homies to OG Bobby Johnson and Ray Ray, to where he came to Ray Ray's warehouse, that Bear was ice grilling him like, what you want? You supposed to be cool with the nigga. How was the head nigga cool with him, but you ain't? That didn't make sense unless something happened. And my we didn't talk about this, but unless Bear heard that in the pen.
That's what I think it was. I think S Curl homie. I think once Bobby separated himself from Deuce in the prison, it got back that like Bobby ain't down no more.
Right. He moved.
And that got all the way back to Ray Ray and Bear.
He hanging with the Muslims. And Bear was like, oh yeah, he just in the set. And Ray Ray's like, oh, he just in the set, but he's still my partner. And I got his son, so I got to save face. Like, yo, what up, Bobby? What up, dog? What happened to yours? Yeah.
I think that like even despite all of that, I think that the relationship between Ray Ray and OG Bobby Johnson is fucking legit.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the game and money turned Ray Ray out, and Ray Ray lost his principles. Not to say that he was very principled to begin with, right? But maybe he did have a vision overall. What we know about it is, he kicked Loco off the set. Deservedly so. Deservedly so. Like Loco had no benefit to the set at all. But to Bobby Johnson's standpoint, once you deuce.
That's the homie.
So even if you're a shermed out deuce, you still a deuce.
But they should have stopped hanging with Loco a long time ago. Unless you're gonna get him kicked, unless you're gonna help him kick the drugs, you gotta just go let him be a basehead somewhere, bro.
Yeah.
Because you hanging out with him, he a liability. Hence he got pulled. They got locked up the first time or the last time because of Loco.
Yeah.
Pulling out the crack or the heroin in front of an undercover cop. None of them did that, but none of them was out there doing drugs. Only Loco was. He's the one that had the drugs. And he showed the undercover cop.
That's the major plot hole in this movie. It's almost, the movie is so good that you almost forget this unforgivable plot hole in the movie, which is that the police would have the murder weapon.
Why?
Yeah.
It's not like they was running from the police and ditched it. They got away before the police showed up.
Yeah.
They got the potato and the gun.
That they got the potato and the gun is egregious.
And you have no gloves. Now, mind you, these guys are young dudes, probably 19.
Yeah.
Young dudes, whatever.
But like, they still know better. Because if we think about the sophistication of the operation, right? They had their gunners, they had the car, they knew that it was only Kansas City Smack Man and his goon.
Henchman, yeah.
They back in, they lock it all down. Now you mean to tell me that they are that prepared operationally for that, but somehow leave both the potato and the murder weapon.
If you don't go throw that, if you don't go to Venice Beach and throw that shit off the pier, hey man. So it's like they should have had a better reason of how they found the murder weapon.
Yeah.
Or they probably should have never found a murder weapon unless it was there already. Like they had to drop it and run.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
or he had his hand. Maybe they got his footprint, his handprints on something else.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's the flaw with the movie, because I don't even know if forensics was like that in the 70s. Right?
Well, no,
right?
This is 91.
No, I'm talking about when
Oh,
OG
this is
Bobby
81.
Johnson.
81. I'm sorry, 81.
Yeah, when he goes in, I don't even know if they had forensics like that.
They didn't.
To be able to match fingerprints like
forensics didn't start getting cracking to 90 to 95 with OJ case.
Right.
That's the first time I started hearing about forensics.
Yeah.
I believe that's when they started.
So the case against OG Bobby Johnson is full of shit. Like again, it is forgivable because the movie requires OG Bobby Johnson to go to jail.
Right.
For long term, but that part in terms of how they get him to jail, very lazy. Like very like we talk about like movies sometimes needing to make things happen. The fact that they have the potato and the gun and his prints in the early 70s, I'm not buying it.
80s, but still, you know what I'm saying? It was 81. Yeah. It was like South Central 81.
I'm not buying it.
Yeah, but even 81, that's a couple years after the 70s. Yeah. So
yeah.
So when he was sitting there, he was like, "Man, you doing time for this, Bobby? You know what I'm saying? Give me some names. That with no fight. Hey, let me talk to my lawyer. No trial.
Mm-hmm.
They just kind of microwave that. So, but that's indie. That's like, okay, we already spent a lot of money on the penitentiary scene set.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to have to do a court set as well.
Yeah. I just think they needed a better way to connect it. It was clear that Bobby Johnson was going to do the time regardless. Like, that's how loyal he was. Right. But the shakedown in terms of him being guilty was flimsy.
Right.
Like that wasn't enough. They should never have had any of that evidence.
So this is how they find OG Bobby Johnson in a better written script. Hey, there was a murder. This big time smack dealer, not big time yet, but he was on his way from Kansas City. Gets laid down in his own nightclub. What are any leads? Well, he's a new guy to the city of L.A. He's been there for about a year, and he's trying to push his way through, the city. Who are his rivals? Well, the guys that live in the neighborhood are these Hoover Deuce guys. One guy just got out of jail for such and such, and the other guy is Ray. He blah, 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 blah. And okay, cool. Let's go talk to these dudes. So now they pick the daughter, they pick the girlfriend up. She's full of dope. So they take her to jail and interrogate her. She might give them up. Or I don't see witnesses to snitching on Bobby Johnson, but like it could have been something.
The only thing that makes sense, not to cut you off, apologies. The only thing that makes sense from a screenplay standpoint is for Ray to drop a dime on OG Bobby Johnson. Like if you set it up that it's a bit of a power struggle since OG Bobby Johnson gets out of jail, and you have him challenge Ray on selling drugs to fund the deuces. Right. If we have a bit of like power struggle at the top, whereas like OG Bobby Johnson is the natural leader. He's the leader of the people. And Ray is more of like the corporate leader, the guy with the vision. It makes sense, and they could have easily done that to put those two guys, philosophy standpoint, on opposite ends of the spectrum, and thus it makes sense for Ray to drop a dime on Bobby because Bobby was not going to get down with the program in terms of my vision for Deuce.
Right.
That makes a whole lot of sense.
Then the potato and the handgun with his
prints and the undercover stripper hopping in the whip.
Under arrest.
Yeah.
Like she's playing a hooker. It's not like she's not looking for Bobby Johnson.
Yeah. That's another
like they were trying to use her as an undercover cop to lure in Bobby Johnson. No, that's not how it works.
This is another nitpick. There's no way that a single cop was going to get all of those guys to comply, right? Like, once she pulls the gun out, that it seems outside of protocol that she'd be by herself, right? Like, somebody could have easily...
No cops on the way.
They could have Dauphined her quickly, or they just pull the car over and the guys go sprinting out of nowhere. What is she going to do? The fact that we have to believe that she said, "I'm a cop, pull over," and they all said, "Okay." And they all pull over while one female cop with one gun holds them all, at bay until backup arrives. She's got no radio. So how's she even going to call for backup? Right? Like, so the idea that, like,
they just threw shit together.
They just, it's that part that, again, this movie needs OG Bobby Johnson to get to jail. We got to get there by any means necessary.
Quickly.
And in retrospect, like, the way that they did it was hella clumsy. Not enough to, like, ruin the movie. It's not egregious that I'm like, it doesn't fucking exist. But it wasn't tight.
Right. And another thing I didn't really like, I already said about Jimmy Johnson, J-Rock. He was a bad actor. But what they should have did was use his friend. I don't know why they chose him. They should have chose the friend that had all the lines, that was out of the three, out of the shortest one, that was like, "Hey man, tell OG Bobby, tell J-Rock to stay up," or something like that. And if you need some help, man, just call. And that guy, his line sounded fluent.
Yeah.
His line sounded like he knew what he was talking about.
Yeah.
He should have been casted as J-Rock.
Yeah.
Sure. And then
he was legit as hell.
Because, yes, and it would have made me like the character more. I didn't really care for J-Rock. He didn't have any personality. He was just like a little dumb kid.
Yeah.
He had the personality, but the other guy seemed like he had a brain. He seemed like he had emotion when he talked. He seemed like a kid that would be on the verge of being the next.
He seemed intelligent.
He seemed intelligent, like the boy from Soul Food, the movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
He carried that film because he was such a good actor as a boy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, it almost feels like Brian Keith Mims is the kid that Christian Coleman is the kid that plays Jimmy J. Rock Johnson, and he was probably in the Magnet program, right? Like he was hood enough to play the role, but he delivered his lines in such a way that was kind of inauthentic.
Yes,
he was a great actor. Probably went to Juilliard. Right? Like, but like the way he walked,
the boy,
the guy that played J-Rock, right? Like,
you think he was a great actor?
What I mean by that is that he may have gone on, like, if like Wikipedia doesn't give me anything else about him, like nothing else kind of like popped. So either this was like a crash and burn, he auditioned, they did a casting call for a kid, he did well enough. He didn't do well in this movie because he was too technical. Like, we already agree that, like, he was true to the script. The kid was probably very receptive to direction. And so the director told him exactly what to do, and he did it. And did not have the nuance as the one corner boy who was like, if you need some help putting in that 187, I got you. Like, one of those kids is closer to the set in terms of his life than the other.
I would have used that kid.
Yep.
Because the boy, because J-Rock, at that age, he did a great job. He did a great job just being there, honestly. But as a kid actor, I didn't see much promise with him.
Yeah,
but he could have gotten better as the years went by. He could have got better.
I mean, if we think about, I think his name is Desi Arnaz Jr., the little boy that played Trey and Boys in the Hood, and also played one of the little boys in House Party. Like, he was, and in Harlem Nights, right? Like, he would have been better at this, right? Like, he had anger to him. He had, like, a vibe to him. And this movie, like, half the movie is about Lil J-Rock.
Right.
So to not get that right from a casting standpoint,
yeah,
maybe a bit of a miss.
The movie doesn't suffer, but the movie has some points taken away, in my opinion, because of J-Rock not being that good.
We needed to believe that J-Rock was so far gone. And because Lil J-Rock doesn't come across as really authentic to the hood, we expect him to go home with his daddy.
Right.
Right? Because he, even his attitude points was, this kid is not from the streets. But in reality, even though the actor wasn't, or maybe the portrayal wasn't, the character certainly was.
Oh yeah, he's supposed to be crazy.
He's supposed to be hella crazy, hella street, like legit, like literally the kind of sociopaths that the hood creates is what we're supposed to see with young J-Rock.
This is what I think. I think he got casted first, and they found that homeboy later, and they didn't want to switch it. The contract wouldn't let them switch the boys, because even I think they just casted the kids bad in general. Like the Juvenile Hall kids, those kids look soft as hell, and that is not the case. YA, Juvenile Hall, those kids will rip you to shreds, dog.
Hell yeah. I thought about you there.
You say who reduce? They mopping you because they from somewhere else.
Yeah, the fact that they all stood back
after he said that, nobody is going. No. You're gonna have to fight because you're gonna be from somewhere. Now I can see somebody. You go to a youth authority. There's some kids that are running the room.
Yeah,
but they had to fight for that.
Yeah,
it didn't just what I'm saying. A lot of times they were the tougher kids.
And I get what the movie was trying to do. When he is in the hospital, he's in the hospital, and he softens up. He gets to playing ping pong. He's got a ton of emotion. But the world that he lives in won't allow him to maintain that. Like immediately when he gets to the group home, he's got to revert back to who he was to survive.
Hence him knocking off the stuff off the bed. He's back.
I get it. I get it.
But that little scene with the kid. Oh, yeah, there's a scene where he goes to the group home, and then like 3 or 4 boys get up to press him, and he throws up his set, and it scares all the boys away. That was a scene that you could tell. Like, I wonder who casted the kids. Probably a white person who just said, put them in some overalls and put their hat to the back. That's a good kid right there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? As opposed to, I need first-time actors type of kids that don't know what they're doing, but they can play that kid. They can play the little gangster kid.
I think you're right. Like at first I was going to give the kid actors grace because they're playing something that's kind of happening in real time, right?
Right.
Like it's not like they have the benefit. Like if you take a kid in the 80s and tell him he's going to play, a kid from the 1960s, he's at least got things to draw upon. Right. From an acting standpoint, when this movie is made, the character in the environment is only 10 years old. Right. Like, but I do think that there was, this movie is about authentically hood people, and the kid, from his bowl cut to his ducktail, just feels very manufactured.
But I mean, the ducktail and the bowl cut, that literally was me. But my ducktail was long.
That was legit.
The bowl cut,
that was legit.
Yeah, I had that. So I related to that. I'm the same age as him, but he's a buster to me though. Yeah, I wasn't even a game banger kid, but that's the thing. In 1992, I was 11. I'm ripping I'm ripping that kid up to shreds. All those kids there, and I wasn't the game banger kid. I was the kid that went to church every Sunday with my mom. You know what I'm saying? But I lived in the environment, and I was the kid that was beating up all the little kids that wanted to be gangsters. I'm beating them up. You know what I'm saying?
And that kid was OG Bobby Johnson's kid.
I would have left him alone because I understood. I remember being in elementary school, like, don't mess with this kid. I ain't gonna say his name, but like, he kept messing with me because I didn't really respond. I would laugh off. He would like tease me and stuff. I would laugh it off because his family is from Crenshaw Mafia. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, okay, I know if I do something to him, they're gonna come. They pick them up from school every day. A few of his cousins, a couple of his brothers would come to the school, and we're 11 years old, and these kids is 14, 15. And they come to pick them up and gang banging, throwing up they said, saying all kind of stuff, taking like this bullying kids and moving on. I flew under the radar with them until he started messing with me, and I'm like, if I do something back and like to defend myself, these kids gonna be on me. And
it's interesting, Ja, because like literally today, I dropped my youngest daughter off at my mom's house, my mom's house, her grandma's house, for my little niece's slumber party, and they live in Compton. Mm-hmm. And I took the hood back to the 10 freeway. Like I drove by Athens Park, I drove by Rogers Park, because I knew we were doing South Central today. Yeah. And so by coincidence, I just happened to be in LA, and I was like, you know what? Like, I'm going to take Vermont all the way to the 10, right? Like,
that's crazy.
Just
from 94 to Vermont.
That's what I'm saying. Like, like I had my golf clubs with me. I was going to go by Chester, Washington. But only because I knew we were doing this movie later, I drove through the city, and it is so interesting. I imagine it's what like a World War II veteran feels like going back to Normandy. You know what I mean? Like, 40, 50 years later. Yeah. Like I'm on the corner by Athens Park, and I'm like, and you can't see anything. You don't see any residue or any remnants of what this park has meant or been. Mm-hmm. And it's so interesting driving through South Central because it's still South Central. Mm-hmm. And the South Central we know is in the 80s. This movie is set in the 70s. And it's so interesting, like this community, like the shoebox houses and the palm trees. It's such a unique and specific community. And it got me thinking about all the movies that they've made based on South Central L.A. And I wanted to ask you if you thought it was simply because the filmmakers are just a couple of miles away in Hollywood, because we have more movies about South Central LA than we have about Brooklyn, than we have about Queens, than we have about Atlanta. There are more. All of the hood movies are set in LA, and there's more of them. Why do you think that is?
NWA.
NWA.
NWA, the music, hip hop, specifically LA. I mean, New York doesn't have any real gangs. They have like crews, like drug crews, names, you know what I'm saying? Like, but like before the Crips and Bloods went out that way, it was Crips and Bloods, the prison system, music, Hollywood. We got Hollywood, which is LA, Los Angeles is known for Hollywood, Beverly Hills, And they also known for the street life, the glitz and glamour and the railroads and train tracks. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but then you got you still have your hood movies in New York. A lot of action films, like Deep Cover, Kings of New York.
True.
You know what I'm saying? Juice. But specifically, movies also polar. The personalities are just so crazy. Like this, the gang banging. Just the person, like the energy that gang banging culture provides, from the way they dressed, from the way they posture up. You know what I'm saying? The different gangs. Imagine it being war, and everyone has their different, like Game of Thrones. You got the Stark family, the Lannisters, the Tyrant. You know what I'm saying? Like the Seaborns. They have different. That's what made Game of Thrones so interesting, because in this world you had all these different crews by name. They had sigils, they had colors, you know what I'm saying? They had their own little everyone had like their mascot, the dragon, the bear, the wolf. Right. You know what I'm saying? So fast forward to like California, LA, it's very interesting for people to want to understand the psyche and the culture of gang banging in Los Angeles. You know what I'm saying? So
I agree.
That's probably nowhere in the country that is that that specific and that intentional.
I don't have I don't have a hot take on this. I could make one, but I'm still defining like what I really think about it. Because when we think about New York, we think about New Jack City, we think about Juice, we think about Clockers, maybe New Jersey Drive, right? But there's only, it seems to be like less than a handful of movies that really focused on inner city New York. There's an old classic movie, The Education of Sonny Carson. I don't know if that was set in Chicago or if that was set in New York. Maybe it's a great movie. We should probably do it for this.
For sure.
If I think about like hood movies set in the South, I mean, we get Jason's Lyric, but that's more of a romance movie, even though we've got gangsters in it.
ATL.
And that's not, it's a movie set in the hood, but it's not necessarily a hood movie.
Right.
But we've got so much of the important hood movies set in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Right? Like literally like almost the Mount Rushmore of hood movies are set in LA. You get Boys in the Hood, you get Menace to Society. Some people might throw Juice on, but like Juice is not like those two movies.
They weren't straight. It wasn't street shit. It was like they were trying to get a lick. They were like regular boys that had a decision, had a dumb decision to rob a liquor store. Old man Quentin. And so the difference between the South, New York, or any place in the East Coast, Chicago, even, specifically in the 70s and the 80s, it's safe every place else.
Yeah.
Of course, there's crime in Chicago. There's drugs in Chicago.
You're right.
But like, you can, like in Chicago, at that time in New York, you can get away with just living there in the hood and not be messed with.
Damn,
in LA, it's not like that.
That's a great point, my man.
Most, like, you could be a Blood or a Crip or an SA, or you can be a regular person, a regular kid trying to get to school every day, and you still.
That's such a great point.
And the culture in LA is so different from the culture. And you see somebody walking down the street in your neighborhood, or you don't know him, you don't care. Unless you think he's selling drugs, unless he's encroaching on your territory, you don't even bat your eye on this guy. He's a civilian. In LA, you can just have the wrong color on. Your mom could have just got you, your dad could have got you a jacket for your favorite basketball team, football team, and you wearing it, and you might get killed on sight for it.
Yeah.
That's because
I'm not trying to catch any East Coast slander. So I make the statement based literally on what I can deduct from not being from New York. New York had a New York had a drug problem, right? Like when the shit popped off in New York, in the crack epidemic, it was fundamentally about drugs and maybe crews running drugs.
Right.
I think to your point, LA was about gangs and drugs.
Right.
And that's fundamentally different.
Drug dealers don't care about a kid that's not selling drugs, that's not buying drugs. He's not a customer. He's not a threat. Move out the way, bro. I'm out here getting money. Right. In LA, the culture is gang banging. It's just being from a neighborhood that's not ours. Yep. Where you from? Not how much money. You never asked to do, hey, how much money you got?
That superseded the drug business.
What you doing here?
From?
Where are you from?
Yep.
Oh, I'm from over there. Boom, bop, bing. It doesn't matter. As long as you from over there and we from over here, we whooping your ass. And that's where it was probably more unique than any other place.
Yeah. I think my last point on this is that I do think that the proximity to Hollywood mattered in terms of the number of films, because literally, where they make decisions on what movies are greenlit is only a couple of miles away from, you know what I mean? Like, where this shit was going down. Like if we look at where Sony Studios and Paramount and all of these places, like, drive 10 minutes and you are on the set of your hood film.
Right.
So I do think that like the story was closer. I think that probably those people breaking through into Hollywood at a time where Hollywood was ripe. But that's where like this movie is so interesting, is that because I don't know what Hollywood was thinking when it greenlit this movie. Like,
Right.
you know, this movie was not Boys in the Hood.
Right.
It was not, you know, Menace to Society. It was very different, but I'm happy that they made it. In terms of it being profitable, this movie was dead on arrival. It was too specific of a story.
And I honestly think the boy was too young. If OG Bobby Johnson did 15 years in prison and came out,
Mm-hmm.
and his son was 16, 17, and it was Cuba Gooding Jr. So you saying it wasn't Boys in the Hood, but it came out a year later or 2 years later, and some of the same characters. You got Bear was in the Boys in the Hood.
Yeah.
Hey, little homie, catch.
Dookie was in it too. No, not Dookie. Monster was in it.
Monster was in it too. Monster was the old boy's partner. You know what I'm saying? Just like he was OG Bobby Johnson's partner. So the movie is very similar. And Furious is Ali.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I'm saying?
100%.
The old boy is Ray Ray. You know what I'm saying? Trey is OG Bobby Johnson.
Yeah.
So the movie some of the same actors. You could easily made this movie with OG Bobby Johnson being Cuba Gooding Jr. and Ray Ray being Ice Cube.
And you know what? Ja? And I don't think it would have mattered. Right? Like I think that you could have cast better actors in South Central and got better overall performances. But like Boys in the Hood extracted emotions from you that South Central doesn't. Right?
Why,
like, you know,
give me examples.
So what I mean by that is that when Ricky gets killed in Boys in the Hood, I mean the whole, like, you can go to YouTube and watch people watching Boys in the Hood for the first time, and they're literally in tears. Singleton just did a better job of making you care about the characters in the movie than was done in South Central, right? South Central, OG Bobby Johnson is an incredibly compelling character. He's kind of the only character that you truly care about. So I think that, like, if I'm thinking about critics or I'm thinking about how a movie is supposed to make you feel, Boys in the Hood does a much better job than that. Even Menace to Society does a better job than that. At a time where hood movies were being made, South Central is an indie movie for a market that was not ready for black indie movies yet. You get what I'm saying? And so that's why this movie was dead on arrival, because it just didn't have an audience ready for it. There weren't, you know, I guess that's what I'm saying.
I think the difference between, I do agree with John Singleton is just a better director. I won't say better director, a more compelling. He made a more compelling film in Boys in the Hood.
Yes.
But I think what sold Boys in the Hood, Boys in the Hood was indie too.
True.
Boys in the Hood wasn't a big budget film.
Yeah.
But you had a bigger name in Lawrence Fishburne, and he's not a bigger or better actor than
Glenn Plummer.
No, not Glenn Plummer. Ali's character, who played Ali.
Yeah, I got you. Carl Lumbly.
Yeah, Carl Lumbly is great. I wouldn't be surprised if Carl Lumbly and Lawrence Fishburne went to school together and
auditioned together. Maybe it's budget. Like maybe like the runtime on South Central is only like an hour and 30 minutes, right? Like an hour and 39 minutes. Maybe if they had more time, they could have, like, again, like what's interesting is that, like, for me, South Central is not as good as Boys in the Hood, but South Central is a really good movie for what it is. Like, for what it is, it doesn't have all the garnishment, it doesn't have all the fixings, it's not nearly as popular, doesn't have the same legacy, doesn't have the same pedigree, but it's a really good story and powered by a really awesome performance by Glenn Plummer, right?
Yeah.
This is not a B movie. Like,
No.
South Central is not a B movie. It's not even a low budget movie. It's a truly indie movie, indie hood movie, even more indie than Boys in the Hood. And I think so. That's how you frame it, right? Like, it's like, this is like a specialty movie. It's a novelty movie. You know,
I agree. I think it's dope. And the mess. What saved this movie are the monologues, the acting, the performances. Ali,
yes, the message,
the message that saves the movie. Because even, like, honestly, I didn't like the girlfriend, the mom.
Yeah,
her acting was alright. Her acting was alright. It wasn't terrible, but like, why not? That her name is Carol.
Larita Shelby. Larita Shelby.
Her name is Carol. Yeah, just like, she was okay.
She was okay.
The best, the nurse was great.
Yeah, she was awesome.
She was great. And that moment with her when saying goodbye to Jimmy was dope to me.
Yeah.
That had heart, but it wasn't enough moments. It wasn't enough moments. Like, even when Carol was about to leave, she comes home and catches Bobby in the dark. Mm-hmm. She comes home just to grab a scarf to say, "I'm leaving again." I'm like, "Why you just got here? What do you mean you leaving? I'm going out."
Yeah.
You was just out. And then she sees him sitting in the chair crying, and she comes down and gives him a hug, and then leaves still. It's like, that was a moment for some dialogue to be there. So for some writing to be there. That was a moment. I agree. For me, that was a moment, like when Trey came home from getting stopped by the police, and he's sitting there talking to Brandy, Nia Long's character. That was a moment. Like, in the soundtrack with Boys in the Hood was just better as well.
Yeah.
I don't even know if South Central had a soundtrack, but like, Straight Up Menace had a soundtrack. Menace Society had a, you know what I'm saying? So, like, certain movies, Jason Lyrics had a soundtrack. If I wouldn't change the cat, I would change the girlfriend, the mom. I would change Jimmy. I wouldn't necessarily have to change Ray Ray. Ray Ray he's a good actor. That's dope. He's Bullhorn from Black Dynamite.
He was fantastic.
But the movie, I think the script could have stayed the same. But if you gotta have a more, at that time, Ice Cube is one of the guys.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? If Ice Cube played Ray Ray and or OG Bobby Johnson, then that would have been fire. He played Doughboy a year before. Glenn Plummer played OG Bobby Johnson. So, if you had Ice Cube playing OG Bobby Johnson, and then he gets out of prison, you give him a little mustache or a goatee, and he got an afro, he come out looking like Fudge from Higher Learning, but he went in with a Jerry curl.
Yeah. Like
Doughboy. We talking about a better movie. You know what I'm saying?
This is my last thought on it.
Mm-hmm.
This movie is chicken top ramen. Okay? Here's what I mean by that.
Uh-huh.
Chicken top ramen is what it is. You know, it is what it is, and you love it when you have it. It doesn't try to be anything else than what it is, right? It is what it is. You can count on it. It's dependable. When you're hungry, it's perfect. It's not trying to be Sizzler. It's not trying to be Red Lobster. It's not even trying to be Chinese takeout. I am chicken top ramen. What I mean by that is that this movie could certainly be better. But it's not. But it is what it is, right? Like, you know, we like it for what it is. We like it for what it is. And we recognize that, like, as much as we like it, it makes us want to imagine ways to make it better.
Right.
But the truth of the matter is that it can't really get better than what it is. because the script is what it is and the actors are what they are and the budget was what it was. So even if you pollute this movie with high profile actors, you're still going to get the same output than you got, right? Like, you know, it's not going to be fundamentally better if a better actress plays the mom, or, you know, it's just like, it is what it is. I think it's because it's as good as it is at its peak that it makes us as film lovers want to feel like, how could we have made, why isn't this movie more popular? How could it have been made better? But I think it really is the sum of its parts. And the math is mathing in terms of what it is.
Okay. I feel like it could be better by casting it differently. Not, okay. but you're not. But we're saying the same thing.
Yeah, we're saying the same thing.
It definitely could be better. Like if you put actual game bangers in there, or not. That's not true because Lorenz Tate is not a game banger, but he did. Yeah. He was a great older. Or a street dude. You know, even Ice Cube wasn't necessarily a gang banger, but he is the game banger. Became even more popular because of his group. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? He looked the part for sure. He acted the part. And I look back at South Central and I'm like, okay, there's some scenes that didn't make me feel like, oh, they look like game bangers, mm-hmm. but it didn't feel like Boys in the Hood. Like,
true, 100%.
For some reason, it didn't. It felt like South Central, but
maybe it's because it was a period piece, right? Like we lose the fact that like a big chunk of the movie takes place in the 70s. Right.
But not, it was 10 years. So it was 80. It was 81.
I mean, if we think about the first third of the movie is in the 70s, right? No. Like, no, OG Bobby Johnson gets out in like
91.
He got out in 91?
That's what I'm saying. Because he went in, I was saying he got in at 80. It was like 81. He did 10 years, right?
I thought that there was like an overlay. Let me see if I can find it here. That he got parole in the like mid 70s. Yeah, I think
car radios. Like I'm trying to think of.
I guess that's the movie comes out in 92. But when do you think the movie was set?
I could have sworn it said on the screen 81.
Lil Ray Ray.
When Ray Ray was a baby, this was 81.
When Ray Ray was okay, and I saw something different.
I could be wrong though.
To me, Kansas City Smack Man. I can tell you what might predate it is. Kansas City Smack Man is still doing the thing. He's still selling smack, and he's the man in the smack. That's a 70s drug, right? That's a 70s drug. Ray Ray gets to like shaking up the crack. So maybe it is 81. Maybe
because, mind you, they saying Sherm. He a Sherm head. Like that's I remember. So when Lil Jimmy, when J-Rock is getting dressed in the morning, he's dressing like we used to dress in elementary school.
But there was no blood. But there was no blood or Crip yet. That's what makes me think this movie predates.
In 81, they was already saying cuz.
Yeah, and they did say cuz a lot in this movie.
Yeah. They were overdoses, you know what I'm saying? So
I gotta double check it.
And there was dudes already in prison that was Hoovers. They just weren't as big yet. They weren't as big. They ended up becoming
which goes to Ray Ray's kind of like point, which is like we're gonna be hella big.
So this is 81. This is still like 2 years ago it was 79. And 5 years ago it was 77. You know what I'm saying? So like it's like
I think we might be saying the same thing. I think OG Bobby Johnson gets out of jail in the early to mid 70s. Are we in agreement on that, or do you think he got out of jail in 81?
81 because 10 years later, when J-Rock is 10, it's 91, 92. So because the way he's dressed, he's not dressed like 80s.
Yeah, I'm blaming this movie for that confusion because
but I'm gonna when we can hang up, I'm gonna go back and look at the beginning of it
because I think, I swear, when we get into the opening scene when OG Bobby Johnson gets out for the first time, I think they say like Los Angeles, like 1972, 1973. I think there's an overlay that sets that as the time in which OG Bobby Johnson is getting out initially. And if that is true, that means that this movie is set in the early 80s and not the early 90s.
It's set in the early 80s. Not in the 70s though. But we're gonna find out.
We'll find out.
And
all right.
But thinking, mind you, J-Rock is 10. And the way he's dressed is not like a kid in the 80s.
Which may be a flaw. Which may be a flaw in the movie.
Like with the coveralls.
With the overalls, yeah.
Overalls and one thing, one slack. Yeah, he dressed like that.
Yeah.
And, oh yeah, boom, y'all. British Knights. British Knights elementary school.
He did have BKs.
Hat to the back. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Like, if I'm right, we're probably both right, which means that we've got some serious continuity issues with this movie in terms of like the overall timing. I felt as if like when Bobby and Ray Ray and them was running before he gets locked up for the murder, that this all takes place in the 70s. And when he gets out at whatever is 10 years past that. But I don't want to belabor it. It takes so much time. Let's get to some awards. Let's get some. Let's fantastic movie. But let's get to some awards. Who's the MVP? Who's the MVP of South Central?
Ali.
Yeah. Easy.
Because without Ali, OG Bobby Johnson would have stayed OG Bobby Johnson.
Easy.
He would have got out. He would have got out and he would have killed Ray Ray and he would have went back to prison.
Yep. It's like for me it's the Karate Kid theory, which is even though Daniel LaRusso wins, it's Mr. Miyagi. His teacher, that puts him on the path. Yeah. And so Ali is the Mr. Miyagi of this shit, right? Like, grabs OG Bobby Johnson, puts him on the path, equips him, gives him everything that he needs. When he teaches OG Bobby Johnson to stand down, that's fundamentally important to OG Bobby Johnson's success. Okay, who's the LVP?
Carol, the mom,
the wifey, mom.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm going Loco.
I know. I was gonna go Loco too. I promise I was gonna go Loco.
Yeah.
And I was like, but Loco is the one that was giving information to Bobby Johnson in prison. That's even why he started to question his gang banging. He started to question his cripping because of Loco. Loco came in with like, Ray Ray changing everything. He not paying nobody. He not even doing. He not doing nobody right.
Here's why I give Carol some grace.
Oh,
she makes the point that like I ain't got no money. I had to go on the county. You know what I mean? Like, like I'm trying to be what I can be without you. You left me. I'm raising this baby on my own. She reminds me in lots of respects of Tyrese's mom, Jody's mom, and Baby Boy, which is, she's a young mom trying to balance. Now she got on that shit, you know what I mean? Which Jody's mama never did.
Off that.
Right. My argument for Loco is he's not good at anything. He's not a good gangbanger. He's not like he's just like kind of like, I don't want to call him a piece of shit, but like he's just a fucking roach.
You can see it.
He's just like he's a roach. Like he's like even like he gives Bobby Johnson the info, and then he when he goes like, gotta go, Bobby, like shows zero loyalty to Bobby for what Bobby had done for him in terms of like keeping Buddha and him off his back, right? Like He's just a shermed out loser.
Right, I agree. But that's because he's on Sherm. That's why. If he wasn't on Sherm, you know them dudes that he used to be irreputable. He used to be the dude. He used to be one of the leaders of the crew. Now he on Sherm. Now he on crack. Now he a smoker, and he lost all integrity, all dignity, all honor. He's just he's a roach now. So I think Bobby Johnson is looking at Loco like what he used to be before he got shermed out.
You could tell what Loco was going to be. Remember when it was at the club, the after hour spot, and Loco was getting it? That's who he was. That's who he was. Yeah.
Yeah, hey. But Carol, bro, Carol, she wasn't trying. It's different. But for one, Jody's mama didn't get on that stuff. She's just a regular hood chick that got it going on. Like she could still pull. She still kept her house clean. She kept her garden right. She mothered her two sons. Jody's brother got killed, but she mothered her two sons the best way she probably knew how at the time.
Yeah.
And Jody was a loser, but he wasn't. He had potential. He had potential. Like Bobby Johnson. I mean, Jamie didn't have no potential at all. You know what I'm saying?
Because of her failure.
Because of her failure. So Loco. Loco didn't have no kids that we know of. Loco, he did get them arrested the first time. Not the first time, but but OG Bobby Johnson shouldn't have even been in the car in the first place with his son. He should have said, "Nah, I'm good. Come back later on by myself." But
it's almost like Carol is Antoine Fisher's mother, right? Which is again like there's this trope of, and this is why I give her grace, because if the movie is set in the early 80s, you know, there's a lot of moms that got hooked on that shit and couldn't mother.
Right.
But if this movie is set in the 70s, it's a fundamental failure of like there have been plenty of moms. There have been plenty of moms who, under the same circumstances as Carol, raised better men.
I mean, I feel like in the 70s and the 80s, the 80s you got crack, in the 70s you got heroin.
Yeah. But this all comes back to Ray Ray, which is OG Bobby Johnson's expectation was that you take care of my old lady, you take care of my son.
Right.
That is what I feel like we could agree Bobby Johnson was owed. That. Yeah. And Ray Ray did neither. Ray Ray didn't take care of his old lady, and Ray Ray didn't take care of his son.
Right.
And Ray Ray could have.
Yeah, he could have.
He could have.
If you're driving around in Benzes, you should be able to have put your best friend, the co-leader, the co-founder of that gang set, you put his baby mama up in a better house.
She should not have been in the same house as she was in when Bobby Johnson went in.
For 10 years, bro. Come on.
And she's in the same crib.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the other part, like it's a bit of a nitpick, even though we at the end, is that I mean, Bobby Johnson makes sure to call out to Carol. No calls, no letters, no visits. That was an important thing. Ray Ray didn't visit OG Bobby Johnson at all. You know, they didn't have any for him to be his mans in them on the level, right? Like, you know, the fact that like Ray Ray totally abandoned him, did not visit him, for OG Bobby Johnson to be specific, keep my son out of this shit. Or how is Carol? Is Carol okay? Right?
Yeah. Yep.
That part, for as close as they were, it would seem as though, like if we look at like the relationship between a Stringer Bell and an Avon and a D'Angelo, it would make it seem like Ray Ray would have had some rapport with OG Bobby Johnson over the course of the 10 years.
Right.
That like he wouldn't have to just get this info second, third hand from Loco.
From the smokehead. The smoker.
From the smokehead.
The basehead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awards.
So Carol was Loco, bro. If you notice, every time you saw Carol, she was asleep, passed out, drunk, or high.
Female Loco. She just wasn't on Sherm.
Yeah, but she was on something else. Remember, she was using.
Oh yeah, she definitely was using.
I don't feel good. Remember, she was going through withdrawals.
Yeah, she was using. Kansas City Smackman had her on some shit,
but she wasn't on PCP. She was on heroin, probably.
Yeah,
shooting up and stuff like that. Like,
and might have been hooking too because she had she had the white man in there.
I'm going out.
Yeah.
And they even said, "Hey, watch your bitch, man. She a Kansas City Smack man gonna turn her out."
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying.
She was when she was leaned in his doorway.
Yeah,
she was already on that shit.
Yeah, she was already. Yeah, she worthless, man. She was there. She's the LVP, bro. And Loco would be the LVP if she had a little bit more. Like she wasn't. She didn't even want to sit with her son when he was in the hospital. She was a bad mom.
That's some LVP shit. Yeah.
Yeah, LVP.
That's some
bro.
LVP shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm trying to. I think I have a soft place for her, even though I know it's time for awards. I think I have a soft place for her because I see what the game and life did to her. Like if the Cars was different, she could have been a different mom and a different wife and a different girlfriend, Yeah. But she's a casualty of the game.
She's a casualty, yeah. I give her grace for that, damn man. She's a product of her environment, but she still ain't shit.
She ain't shit. Okay, let's give out some fists. On a scale of 5 all-time classic to 1 black movie that got made, how do you rank South Central?
I was gonna say 4. I'm gonna give it a strong 3.8.
3.8. Okay.
Yeah. Nah, I'm gonna give it a 4 for the ending.
It's a 4.
And for the scene with Ali in the prison. I love that. I love the acting. Because we just got finished like criticizing the boy, the mom, acting on this and the other, but like the movie has so much heart. The movie was dope. Yeah, I dig it.
I like this movie. Like if graduating with a degree in black film, if Boys in the Hood is a requirement, which it is, and Menace to Society is a requirement, which it is, and you need maybe 3 more credits. It's your senior year. You need 3 more credits to be eligible. Take South Central.
Oh yeah,
right.
It's a passing.
Exactly. So I'm agree. It's a 4. It is not required viewing to get your degree in black movie cinema. But if you need 3 credits and you need a quality black movie that does a great job of telling a chapter of the black experience,
yes,
this is a good movie.
It's a great way of putting it. A chapter of the black experience. South Central.
Yep. Get those units, graduate. It's worthy. This movie is for black movie heads, right? Like, it's not for your casual black movie lover. I don't want to say you can skip it because I don't want anybody to skip any of these movies.
Nah.
But this is for the type of person that loves to go deep.
Yeah. And for the black father.
Oh hell yeah! Talk about that shit. Yeah,
I think it should be a movie that you will watch and you will watch with your son.
Yeah,
your sons,
100%.
Your daughters. Honestly,
100%.
You can lose your daughters to the game too. Might not be the gang banging, but it can be to a gang banger.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of movies where the son and the father is a great relationship. Imagine if, like Boys in the Hood, it could be a whole different movie if Nia Long's character was the main character and was in love with like a dull boy.
Oh man, that's great.
Lawrence Fishburne was her father.
That's great. That's great.
A different movie, but a movie that will blow up just as much as Boys in the Hood did.
Yeah, you cooking with that.
Yeah, but I agree.
I think it's a 4, and I think the movie is underrated.
Yes,
I don't think it's a 5.
It's not a 5, not in my opinion.
Yeah,
but it's a 4. I think it is underrated. I think it should be underrated more. Even though we picked it apart, but that's our job. You know what I'm saying? That's what we do. Pick it apart.
And again, we're gonna find something. None of these things are flaws. Like all of our nitpicks don't even really make the movie better, right? They're just things that we noticed, right? Like fundamental.
Come on.
Yeah, it doesn't change the output at all. But it's still a good movie. So I'm glad we watched it.
Yeah.
I'm happy to have rewatched it. It was a good movie.
Yes, sir. It was. Absolutely. Deuce. Hey, y'all, family. That's it for this week. Catch us next week on BlackBusters, the best movie review podcast in the world.
In the world, Craig.
I'm your co-host, Big Ja, along with my co-host,
OG Tony Johnson.
OG Tony Johnson.
Yeah.
All right, we'll catch y'all next week.
Ja, one of my favorite lines in this movie before you sign us off. New car for Ray Ray. New house for Ray Ray. Oh, my favorite lines in this movie. I can't believe I'm just saying it now.
And what about when Ali was like, "That's a man. He's a man," which is true though. He said, "Hey man, in prison you shouldn't be able to rape men, straight men, bro.
Yeah.
The dudes that's soft and they out there giving up their butt, get them, but not this man. We ain't trying to break no men."
Yeah. It was great. It's great. Now I have 15 bucks.
I have 15 boxes of cigarettes. You know, Buddha
That's it.
Buddha was a deviant, bro. All right, dog. Yeah, fun, man. Hey, leave your comments and in the comment section. Let us know if you agree or disagree with what we said about the breakdown of South Central. Yeah, man. Catch us next time. Be good or be good at it. We out of here. Peace. Deuce to the max. BlackBusters.